The White House on Tuesday came out against a provision in the Fast Track Authority bill for the TPP, which already passed. It's a provision that essentially gives Israeli occupation of the Palestinian territories a blessing. It gives them the green light, it gives them a go-ahead, and it says, right on, go ahead, you keep on occupying, fantastic. So they say the following, quote, the United States government has strongly opposed boycotts, divestment, campaigns, and sanctions targeting the state of Israel and will continue to do so. However, by conflating Israel and Israeli-controlled territories, a provision of the Trade Promotion Authority legislation runs counter to long-standing U.S. policy toward the occupied territories, including with regard to settlement activity. So, understand what the White House is saying there. They're like, okay, Israel, you know that we're on your side. We're not even in favor of the BDS movement, so let's be clear about that. We're with you, we're with you. But, I mean, look, the TPA bill has a provision which says A-OK to further expansion and to occupied territories and to settlements. We don't go that far. Okay, again, we're on your side, but to go that far and to say occupied territory, rock and roll, as Obama said previously, it's getting fucking hard to defend you, Netanyahu. It's getting hard to defend Israel when they keep expanding as they pretend like, oh, we're totally in favor of a Palestinian state. So the amendment basically discourages Europe from stopping trade with the occupied territories as well. So they're just trying to take away all criticism. This is in Fast Track Authority for the TPP. I don't even know what this how this fucking relates to it, other than that there's some trade that's done between all the different places. But think about that, man. You're just trying to take away all criticism of the occupied territories. If there's anything that needs more criticism, a heaping healthy dose of criticism, it's the occupied territories. You should not be occupying them. But see, that's why they slip it in. They try to take something that's not debatable on the other side and make it not debatable for the wrong reasons. Like, it's not debatable because we're for the occupation. No, it's not debatable because nobody should be for the occupation. It's really slimy and it's really gross. And by the way, here's my little conspiracy on this, and I don't even know how much of a conspiracy it is. I don't think the White House really even believes what the fuck they're saying. I don't. Because you know how you could have showed that you were against this provision? If you took the provision out before you passed the TPA. That's we don't like this provision. Then why the fuck did you just sign the bill? Assholes. We're totally against this, which is why we supported it and we pushed for it. Notice how after the TPA passed, they're now like, I don't like this part right here. This doesn't seem right to me. So they can come out and give a statement and put on a face for, the rest of the world where they're like, we're not really the bad guys here. We're on your side. But meanwhile, actions speak louder than words, and your actions show that you just supported occupation because you signed on to the TPA, and in the TPA, they say rock and roll occupation. So, I don't, look, it's at the point now where I think, for all of, like, the little bit of pushing back Obama does, it's very possible that it's just, showmanship. It's kabuki theater. It's Obama and Netanyahu, or the U.S. government and the Israeli government, playing this game where America's like, oh, you better try to get a state now, I'm wagging my finger at you, and Netanyahu and Likud are like, yeah, we will try to get a state, but we don't really want it that much. And the U.S. is like, well, we're going to force you to do it. And then what happens? They never fucking do it. They never lift the veto at the UN. They never cut the billions of dollars in aid that we give them. They never support BDS, as they just said. Just every once in a while, maybe kind of, but not really, they say, occupation is a little bit fucked up. Well, again, I don't care about what the fuck you have to say. I care about what you do. How you try to fix it. You have the power. You know you have the power. You could cut the funding. You could lift the veto. You could support the BDS movement, but you don't do it. And you don't do it because, again, it seems to me like this is kabuki theater at this point. Like you're just playing a game, you're putting on a play for the rest of the world where the U.S. pretends to be more reasonable on the issue of a Palestinian state, but in reality they're perfectly in lockstep with Netanyahu and Israel. And it's fucking hard to watch, man. How much longer do the people in Palestine, how much longer are you going to make them sit there and fucking take this? And then what happens? When they think there's no hope, so they turn to violence, what does that make Israel do, and what does that make the U.S. do? They turn around and go, you see, they're savages anyway. We can't give them a state because they're violent people. It's inherent in their nature. Have you considered that maybe the conditions that are brought about by your actions make it so that they turn to fucking violence? And we know that that's true. That's a fact. We know, based on studies, based on evidence. I mean, we spoke about the polling data recently, how before Netanyahu's incursion into Gaza, Hamas was not popular in Gaza. Then after the incursion, they shot up in popularity 15 percentage points. Why? Because when you're an aggressor against them, what are they going to do? They're going to turn to the militants who say, we will protect you. They're going to turn to their own right-wingers to protect against the Israeli right-wingers. So you're making the problem fucking worse. And, you know, America is playing the role of the international weasel on this front. And we need to fucking stand up and say enough, man. People in America, fuck that. Now, I'm not for the Fast Track Authority. I'm not for the TPP. I would tank that entire bill anyway. But along with trying to tank that bill, we should also do everything I just named in order to get a Palestinian state and get it recognized by the UN. We have to do it for long-term peace and stability in the region. It is an absolute necessity. And the way you do that is you lift the veto, you cut the funding, and you join BDS.